morning, people. Mike Martin's here with the Mike Martin's channel. Thanks for joining, liking, and subscribing and being part of all the jazz, or whatever that we want to call it here. Anyways, what is happening? I am getting bombarded with Instagram messages, Facebook messages, emails, people calling the store. They are underwater. And what are we talking about? Well, they bought in the last year, or bought in the last 2 years, or even bought in the last 3 years. Heck, I've had people message me that have bought a house 6 years ago, but they're underwater. Why are they underwater? Well, because they use their home as an ATM machine. And it's something I've been saying on the channel for the last 10 years. Let's take a closer look at what's going on here and how it's going on and how it's affecting a lot of people. I never thought I would get so much attention. Yeah, I was talking about this for years. Nobody really cared. Nobody even watched the damn videos. But now, it's happening. Now, I got some stats here I want to show you guys from Better Dwelling. Now, Better Dwelling, people ask me, why do you use Better Dwelling for? Well, they're non-government funded. They're non-government supported, like our mainstream media here in Canada. So if you want to sit back, relax, if you're from the United States, the blue states of America, this will affect you. If you're in Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, this is happening everywhere. And let's take a look at what's happening here, specifically in Canada. So here it is, guys. Many of Canada's peak real estate buyers might already be underwater. Heck, there's people that bought 5 years ago that are underwater. Most Canadian home buyers will see little to no impact. And why is that? Because, such as myself, I was telling people, get out of Vancouver. There's videos there 7, 8 years ago. Get out of Sydney, Australia. Get out of London, England. Get out, get out, get out, get out. The cities are going to turn into, it's going to be hectic in the cities, okay? And I left. I bought a house for $260. I bought a big house for $260 with lots of land for $260, right? So I basically took my own medicine. I did what I told people to do, like get out of the cities. The cities are not working, right? The cities are going to be unaffordable. So now most people bought to raise a family. Most people bought a home just because they need to raise a family and lay roots. And that's what I did. Let's move on. So what's happening here? See, the vast majority of home buyers buy a home to live in. So short or midterm price consequences mean little. So Canada's peak home buyers with minimum down payments are barely above water. Canada's peak buyers that snatched a home at the March peak with a minimum down payment aren't having fun. CREA puts the price of a benchmark or typical home as $868,000. Guys watching this in the States, they're not buying mansions. They're just buying a typical 2-3 bedroom home. This is not, so people watching this in the States are going to turn it off and say, why are these people buying these luxurious? No, these are just regular homes, okay, that you could buy in Alabama for 90 grand. In March 2022, it was reported that 809,700 in June, down 6.7%, 58,400. Lower than peak, it's hefty decline, especially considering how long it would take the average household to save 58 large. We talked about how long people had to save to put a down payment on a home, and it was nuts because they couldn't get first-time home buyers, right? So what about these people here? First-time homebuyer loans. What about the people that took the first-time homebuyer loans that couldn't already afford to buy a house 5 or 6 years ago, where they were giving first-time homebuyer grants? Unlike the United States, where in some states, if you live in the home for X amount of time, you don't have to pay the grant back. In Canada, you have to pay it back with interest. Woo! All right, so what's going on? But what about these people that took the interest-only mortgages and took the first time? So this is it. Look at this. First-time homebuyer loans, disaster ahead, forcing people who can't afford to pay it back. So you're getting people in the markets. This was before, oh, housing is out of control. No, it was already out of control for years. Liberal housing plan, first-time buyers, it's a trap. This will only stimulate the economy. Look, bank lowers rates to support ailing housing market to get first-time home buyers in, forget inflation. So there it is right there. So this is something we've been talking about for so many years. Look, New Zealand foreign buyers ban is working. So they banned foreign investors into New Zealand. So let's go back here. So the minimum down payment using a high ratio mortgage backed by an org like the CMHC was about 7.1%. That would leave March peak buyers with a mortgage loan of about $806,000, about $3,400 higher than June's price. So people bought and they're already almost instantaneously underwater. An average price decline of 4 days in June would be all it needs to sink the number into a negative. Considering a buyer in March would have just moved in by June, that's probably not a great feeling. So Canada's peak buyers spent more on a home than it's worth when including insurance costs. So what are we talking about? People using their homes as ATM machines. But not only that, people are house broke. So people put everything that they had into something that they couldn't afford in the first place. And now they got into the property market, and now they're going to be massively regretting this by the end of 2022. People that did own and had for the last 5 years, housing ATM machine, massive default ahead, people taking on too much debt. That's more than 3 years ago. I remember that video. Canadian housing disaster, people using homes as ATMs, over leveraged to the max. So let's type in, guys, what was that? Broke. Let's see what come up when we type in broke. Why I'm always broke, $10. Again, house broke. Americans going broke. Homeowners going broke. Again, this is before the you-know-what. It was already happening. Toronto going broke, must raise property tax. House broke, right there, house broke. Westerners not traveling as much, not starting families, taking on too much debt. 4 years ago, nobody even saw that video. Middle class is now house broke. So that's what I kind of wanted to get there. So listen to this, guys. So this is Canadians withdrawing money on their homes. Billion pesos. Okay? Because that'd be $2 million. This is 2 billion Canadian dollars. Okay? That's 1.78 billion US dollars every month from their homes. Everyone's using their house as a damn ATM machine. So there it is there from 2018, and nobody saw that video, and that's me talking about that right there. So let's keep going. So Canada's typical peak buyer would have to pay to sell, so they're going to basically lose at a loss if they bought. So let's go to Canadian real estate markets where peak buyers are likely underwater. Again, this is coming from us from Better Dwelling. Don't forget to check them out. So here it is right here. So Cambridge, Ontario. If you bought in Cambridge, Ontario, you are officially underwater if you bought at peak, depending on how much you put down. So if you put down 50%, you should be fine. And if you bought a house to just buy it to live in and you could afford the payments, you're fine, right? So Kitchener, Waterloo, right there. Wow, that's pretty high. That's wow. So it was what, 790 now. Wow, borrowed 904. Wow, that's pretty intense, folks. Chilliwack, British Columbia. There's the aggregate right there. So that's right across. So you could see from it's at 809. Now it's at 838. So you go into Niagara Falls. So you go into even Winnipeg is right there now. Winnipeg is right on the border. Fraser Valley, that's close to the area I'm in, the Okanagan, Fraser Valley. Barrie, Ontario. So these places are starting to see fractures, right? Peak condo buyers in a lot of Canada's most expensive markets would have to pay to sell. So what do we say about condos? Let's go over to here. I was saying something right here. Now, with the condos, they were building condos faster than you could do it, faster you could shake a stick at. Why? Because they were economy becoming more dependent on housing. Australian economy being dependent on housing 5 years ago. 5 years ago. Millennials taking on too much debt. Vancouver disappearing middle class. Economy is too dependent on real estate. We need to export. We're not exporting. We're exporting homes, but we're not exporting anything else. Housing crisis. Monster homes on farmland. Massive food shortage by 2021. Food rationing. China will own Canada by 2020. Price boom in the GTA. Double correction. Real estate double-digit correction needed 5 years ago. So here it is. Like this is crazy what's been happening and how we've been kind of following this for many years now. Now, condo buyers in a lot of Canada. So we covered this the other day that a majority of the condo buyers on Better Dwelling. So let's go to Better Dwelling. We can open it up here. Are not even Canadian people anyway. So Canada's tax authority has been on a multi-billion-dollar real estate crackdown because a lot of the foreign investors that bought properties don't want to pay taxes on them, right? 1 in 10 of Canada's non-resident real estate owners have multiple properties. So they're non-Canadians, but they own multiple properties. And like I said, I know a guy that was bragging he owns 170 condos in Canada, and he owns, I think it was 204 condominiums in Australia, and they're all empty. This week's top stories. Okay, no. Go down here. Canada's mortgage boom is almost entirely uninsured as investors take over. And many of Canada, this is the one we're reading right now. Canada's rising mortgage rates is bad news for borrowers, but not the economy. Again, it's going to obviously create a correction in the economy. Canadian real estate is worse than official data shows. So it's getting really bad. Canada's variable rate mortgage borrowers aren't in for a mayhem media expects. Again, that's the media. Here we go. Toronto real estate developers sold 0 new single-family homes last month. There it is right there. And because, is it because all of a sudden Canadians can't afford to get into their own housing? No. It's Canadians want to get into their own housing. Canadians can't afford to get to their own housing. And in BC, already in 2017, 2016, first-time homebuyers were unheard of. They couldn't find first-time. It was all very heavily first-time homebuyers. We're not talking about people that had homes and sell them and rebought. We're talking about people that just wanted to get into the market and own a home and raise a family and lay roots, right? So there it is right there. And then it goes into HELOC debt hits 9-year high. So what are we talking about HELOC? We're talking about people using their homes as ATM machines. Where did that go? I guess it's in here somewhere. It's in here. We brought it up earlier. So there it is. There's the one. Where's the one I wanted to really bring up here? We got that. Hold on. Let me just go here. Canadian cities have seen investors buy up to 100% of newly constructed condos. So people in the condo market, you don't have to really worry too much if you're Canadian, because the condo market will eventually start to falter, but majority of it isn't Canadian owned anyway now for the new builds, right? So there it is right there. Canadians may be understood where peak buyers might be underwater soon. So I think this condo buyers, I think we covered that there. That's for homes. And does this go into typical home across Canada in contrast to the amount of debt, principal, insurance costs, high ratio insured mortgage borrowers who bought at the peak would have? So again, it goes back again, how much they borrowed and what so you got Victoria, Northumberland, Vancouver, Peterborough, Woodstock. More and more people are, what's this? Windsor, Ontario. Yeah, Windsor is very expensive. It got very expensive. And housing is still above. So according to this is what that thing, and that's what they borrowed. So people are still, like, if you're in Windsor, you're still in good tidings, I guess. You're still in a decent position. So, okay, markets where peak buyers might be underwater soon. So this is going to happen too soon. But some of these are in good position standings, like that one's in a good position, Windsor. I'm just trying to see what else may be in a good position. But it's still too expensive to live in Windsor, Ontario for that much money, right? Canadian real estate prices expected to fall further, but this isn't as bad as it sounds. Again, they're obviously going to have to tailor to both sides and to here. Let's just type in crash. Let's see how long we've been forecasting this crash. When will it crash? Again, when they kept adjusting, housing will never crash, never. And the reason why I put this is because they are going to immigration boom. They're bringing in more and more people to come in and buy housing, and they're no longer depending on Canadians. Now that forward investing is completely drying up, we shall see now a crash. We shall see now a correction, because Canadian proper has been out of the equation since 2012. They've been out of the equation. So now we're looking at this now. Okay, well, if they keep bringing in people, and Canada wants to bring in, 61 million people in from China, and what that means for us. So this is an article that's been floating around from many mainstream media sources. 69 million Chinese adults would like to move to Canada. I thought Canada wanted to go green and have a negative carbon position, which it does. And Canada is the second most desirable country for Chinese immigrants. And basically they're telling us, in breaking it down, what that means for us as Canadians. And if they bring in, so that's what Canada was on the thing. You could look it up. It's I'm just trying to see if I could find more articles. There was a bunch of articles by mainstream media, the CTV, the CBC. They must have been deleted. But there it is right there. And that's when they were ramping it up. And that's when I tied in this article to it. God, where'd it go? Right there. Because I already knew 2020. I already knew that basically that's what the plan was. To keep Canadians out of the loop, to keep Canadians that built the infrastructure impoverished, deport more Portuguese, like they've been doing over the years, and just keep basically building forward an unsustainable... They want to go green, but they don't want to go green, but they want to go green, but then why they want to bring in 61 million people? The articles are gone. The CBC and CTV, the mainstream paid-for media, is gone. Like, it's here, but you look up articles anymore, they're gone. There was a pile of articles up about that. Now it's some secondary media source now that has it up. Anyways, guys, be prepared. It's going to get hard. If you put money down, you could afford your payment, you bought a house to lay roots, and you don't give a BS crap of where housing goes, you're fine. I bought my house. I paid cash for it because it wasn't expensive. Because I left the city. I noticed that I could do better. I could get further ahead. I could exponentially become more successful with my family. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be with my family. Anyways, guys, I'm talking here too much. Be safe, be good. And what do you do if you're underwater? I'm getting so many emails. It's phenomenal. It's like people are just waking up to finding me now all of a sudden, all these years later. It's kind of interesting in a way. What can you do? Well, sell at a loss if you have to, or live in the place. You need to live somewhere. And if you could afford the payments, your TDS fits, your total debt service ratio fits, it looks like it's workable, then just ride it out. Just, most people don't want to pay for something that's worth less than what they bought it for, right? So that's the problem, right? So anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments here. I'm talking too much. Mike Martin's here. I have spoken.